What is going on, guys? We are now through week 10 of this NFL season, and today I'll be going over my power rankings for this week and, up to this point in the season. So either way, before we get into this video, I just want to say we are on the road to 1,000. We have cleared 600. We're getting there slowly but surely. Let's get to 1,000 before the end of this calendar year so I can give away another jersey around the holiday time. Either way, let's get right into this video. So to start off, we are just going to go right into this. The worst team in the league so far this year is definitely the Panthers. They've clearly been worse. They actually lost head-to-head to the Bears this week, which pretty much firmly asserts them as the worst team in the league. Moving on from them, the Bears will be too. Tyson Bagent's bad. Justin Fields has been bad enough this year that the Bears are clearly going to move off of him. There's a reason that he is not playing still. Oh, his thumb's hurt. Yeah, no, he just stinks. He's just bad. And I mean, yeah, maybe he's okay, but they know he's not their future to this point. So they're just making sure he doesn't accidentally win them a couple games that they really shouldn't win, because yeah, his legs can help them score, but otherwise passing as a quarterback, he's not good. They're moving off of him. And another team who's moving off of their quarterback, the New England Patriots. They're terrible, man. They just lost this week in the worst fashion of the Colts. I mean, it just was a crappy game, and they ended up on the wrong side of it in that game. Yeah, just not a fun time for them. Bill Belichick, there's a lot of rumors he's going to be, just mutual partying or traded this offseason. That's going to be a really interesting thing to watch coming this year. But either way, yeah, Patriots, bad. That means the Cardinals are moving up a little bit. Better than the Patriots at this point. And I think that's primarily because Kyler Murray is just a better quarterback and gives them a better opportunity to win. Part of my power rankings is based on how they look right now, how they've been this season as a whole, and the future of this team this year. I'm not talking about, what 2 years looks like. That doesn't matter. But I'm talking about the rest of this season. And the Cardinals, they still are probably going to try to lose a few games, and their roster is still very bad. But Kyler does give them a step up over all those teams, maybe even over our next team, probably actually over, which is the Giants. They are just also atrocious. Daniel Jones, he tore something, Achilles, ACL, something. ACL sounds right. They're probably going to end up moving off of him soon too. Only problem is they paid him, so they've got to wait to be able to move off of him at least a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if they still went after a quarterback this offseason, whether it be a vet or a rookie in the draft, since there are so many of them. But yeah, Daniel Jones, I think he's done in New York one way or another. That contract might be untradeable, though. Colts come next. They have been decent, but honestly, they fall to this back-end spot, maybe under some teams they shouldn't be, simply because Gardner Minshew is not going to lead you to many wins. Yeah, he's an okay backup, an okay spot starter, but I can't give them too much credit when it's just Gardner Minshew. I mean, I like him as a solid spot starter player. He can step in and win you a couple games, but he's just not reliable enough to do much more than that. After them, the Rams come in here. Where are they at? And the Rams, they've been banged up. And Matthew Stafford comes back next week, supposedly. So if that happens, that could be very beneficial for them. But at the moment, they're not going to move any higher than this because they can't. The Packers, they're going to go at 25. They can't put it together. They just can't finish things off. I had a really tough time debating them, the Rams, and our next team, which I'll get to in a second. But Jordan Love's quarterback play is just, it's not convincing at this time. I hope the best for him, and I think over time maybe he can prove something. But right now, it's just not convincing enough for me to put him any higher. Atlanta is next, and I do trust Taylor Heineke more than Jordan Love at this point. Plus, Bijan Robinson, when he gets the ball, is helpful. The Falcons' defense has been more consistent than the Packers' defense, plus the injuries the Packers are facing now to Jair Alexander and all that. The Falcons, maybe they can scrape something out, especially in a worse division, where they may still be able to win somehow. That's why I give them the credit I give them, if any at all. But we're splitting hairs here. After the Falcons, we have the Tennessee Titans. Once again, I can't find them, but another team I really had trouble with picking. Maybe the Falcons above them. I like Will Levis. I do. That's the only reason they're slightly above. Obviously they have Derrick Henry. They have some defensive pieces, but overall, they might be able to scrape out a wild card appearance. The AFC's a little tougher, so I don't know, but I like Will Levis even over Taylor Heineke at this point. Maybe switch those two around. I don't necessarily hate it, but right now I'm going to leave the Titans above. I like Vrabel. That's another big thing. Vrabel over Arthur Smith in that case, that's a big one. After the Titans, the Raiders, they have put together some wins after getting rid of the cancer that is Josh McDaniels. He's a terrible head coach. I don't know why he was ever hired. Don't know why he has ever been hired ever. But, yeah, I mean, the Raiders just, Aiden O'Connell can only do so much. However, their team is better. They have better players across the field than a lot of these teams down here. Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, Nate Hobbs isn't a bad player. Robert Spillane has been great this season. Michael Mayer's been good. Jacoby Myers has been good. Josh Jacobs, obviously. None of these teams have anything like that in terms of, just being across the board good. The Commanders come next, and while you could argue they belong under some of these teams, they have some roster pieces too, and I like Sam Howell over pretty much all these quarterbacks as well. A lot of it falls on the quarterback because quarterbacks win games, and yeah, it's tough, but they're still putting up like 30 points a week. It's just, they're putting up points. They just can't stop it on the defensive side. Yes, that's a part of football. Maybe that bumps them down, but at the same time, maybe they can make something happen in a poor AFC for one, or excuse me, NFC, not AFC, in a poor NFC. And in a division that, other than the Eagles and the Cowboys, I mean, they're going to beat the tar out of the Giants if they play them. And then past that, what other divisions have much going on? I mean, you have the division winners in each, and then, the Seahawks are decent, I guess. The NFC South is all kind of crappy. The NFC, North? I mean, the Lions are good, and the Vikings are making it happen, but maybe they can fit in a playoff spot. Maybe. I doubt it, but I'm putting them there for now. They're probably going to fall soon, though, if they, keep losing games. After the Commanders, the Buccaneers come next. Baker Mayfield, he's done well. It's just the offense and the rest of it has not consistently stayed apart. They can't close out games. That's a coaching issue. That's called Todd Bowles. That'll get you really not very far with Todd Bowles. So there's that for you. Next, we'll take the Jets at 19. The Jets are just, they're the Jets, man. I mean, at this point, the line is not good. The receivers are subpar other than Garrett Wilson. Zach Wilson, that's a big thing. The quarterback play there is not as good as, I think the Commanders or the Bucks or, a couple other teams at this point. But the defense is very good, and the defense has kept them in games. So I'll give them that. Aaron Rodgers might come back in mid-December. So, that's interesting if that's actually possible. I kind of doubt it just because this is an Achilles tear we're talking about, and that's just never happened before. I don't know. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers in December? Let's see. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos. They just got a surprise win against the Bills. The Bills ruined their own game. And I'm going to say this right now. The Josh Allen hate has got to stop. This man has the highest completion percentage in the league with nobody receivers outside of Stephon Diggs. I don't care what you say about Gabe Davis. He's not that good of a receiver. Dalton Kincaid's been really good. But other than that, Khalil Shakir. What are we talking about here? We'll get to them in a minute. Let me just stop there. Either way, 12 men on the field ruined it for the Bills tonight. They had a missed field goal, and they had one too many guys on the field, so whatever. Bad on them. Broncos have made some wins happen, and, they're looking a little bit competent right now. That's because of Sean Payton. You guys who thought the Sean Payton-Russell Wilson thing was a sham, you had to wait a little bit. They had to get used to each other. Russell Wilson has been pretty good this year. Sean Payton is a winning coach. They're going to be fine with those two at the helm. They just are. Next, I'm taking the Saints. Not as good as they may have been expected to be so far. A bad game this week. It just was not very good against the Vikings with Josh Dobbs, who I'll just go ahead and say, they are next. And part of this is why I don't put the Vikings any higher is just because, Josh Dobbs, he's been good. Don't get me wrong. He's won 2 games for him on no time to prepare. But you simply cannot expect him to just keep winning games. He's Josh Dobbs. He's not Russell Wilson. He's not Baker Mayfield. He's not even that good. He's a quality backup, a quality spot starter, and he can make magic happen here and there. But, until proven otherwise, it can't be proven that he's going to do anything. After them, I'm taking the Chargers next. They may not have the best record, but in terms of the outlook for the rest of the season, Justin Herbert can carry, and he's going to. So that's why they stay up here. It is what it is. Texans have been a surprise to me, and they move up quite a few spots. CJ Stroud has been great, and I did not have them high at all. CJ Stroud, I was not a fan coming out of the draft. Didn't think he was going to be atrocious, but didn't think he was going to be as great as some thought he was. And he's been very good. But, yeah, he had like a great performance, that 470-yard, 5-touchdown game. That's awesome. I still am not completely sold on him. It's his rookie year. Rookie things happen. Next year when you get a lot more film on him, I bet things look a little different. That or we have a generational talent on our hands that we just haven't seen quite yet. Either way. Moving on, the Bengals are next. Oh, but they lost to the Texans. Yeah, well, I don't really care exactly about that. The Bengals' outlook on the rest of the season is definitely better than the Texans, and you can't argue that otherwise. The Bengals could still win their division. The Texans could theoretically win their division. However, the Jaguars are already kind of running away with it, and I don't expect him to change that. The Bengals, the AFC North is extremely tight, and the Steelers, the Browns, the Ravens, they're all going to beat up each other by the end of this season. So we'll see who comes out of that, which leads me to another AFC North team in the Steelers. They have a better record than most believe they would right now. They're 6-3. How has that happened? I don't know. I really don't. They shouldn't be 6-3, and I'm a Steelers fan. I'll tell you that right now. But Kenny Pickett is clutch. He has 7 game-winning drives since he came into the league last year. That is the second most in the NFL. I am not a Kenny Pickett fan, as most of you know who've been around this channel. But the one thing I will say is he has the clutch gene, and that's something that a lot of quarterbacks just simply don't have. Plus, the Steelers have one thing that no other team has, and it's called the best coach in the NFL, Mike Tomlin. And that's just undebatable at this point because, yeah, Mike Tomlin is the best coach in the NFL. It's not close. After the Steelers, we will go down and take the Buffalo Bills. They fall out of the top 10 for sure. They're 5-5. Rough. That's exactly why they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Every single year, it seems like some team falls off a cliff, and they're like, oh, this team stinks, and now they're going to fall out of the playoff race. Last year, the Bengals were 4-3, and they started off like 1-3 or 1-2, and they just barely scraped over and didn't look pretty at all, and yet they ended up in the AFC Championship and almost won it. That's what the Bills are doing this year. I mark my words, the Bills end up in the Super Bowl. That or they fall off a cliff entirely, and Josh Allen demands a trade. Either way, yeah, the Bills... The Josh Allen hate's ridiculous. Oh, he's the most turnovers since he entered the league. Well, his first year was atrocious, and that shouldn't even count. Other than that, he has the second most touchdowns in the league since then either, as well. Compared to Patrick Mahomes, I mean, it's like very close. And yeah, Gabe Davis tonight dropped a ball. James Cook fumbled 3 times. That's not on Josh Allen for losing that game. Get out of here with that. Next, we're going to go with a team that's started peaking and then falling off again. Seahawks. Yeah, Geno Smith had a little bit of a resurgence there, and now he's kind of slipped back down a little bit. I did tell y'all that he wasn't going to be as good as he was last year, and a lot of y'all didn't believe me. But, well, I think here's your proof. He's okay. But there's a reason why he was a backup for 10 years in the NFL. Next is the Browns. Their defense has been very convincing. The offense, not so much. One thing I do hate about the Browns, though, right now, in the Browns' favor, that is, they played the Ravens this week, and they won. They beat the Ravens, who everybody thought was going to go to the Super Bowl so easily without a touch on their record. But Deshaun Watson threw a pick 6 in the very first part of the game to Kyle Hamilton, who blocks the ball. It pops up in the air. He runs under it, runs it in. Lamar Jackson did the exact same thing to Greg Newsome, I believe it was, and no one's talking about that. Why? Because, oh, Lamar's the best quarterback ever, and he's just so amazing. He's really not. He just doesn't make a ton of mistakes. And he can run a good bit. But, like, as a passer, Lamar is not better than Deshaun Watson. So, yeah, let's just stop that. Cowboys are next. And the Cowboys beat the Rams 2 or 3 weeks ago. And everybody was like, oh, Cowboys to the Super Bowl. They're the new favorites. They beat the Rams, who Matthew Stafford didn't even play that whole game. The Cowboys are just, excuse me, wildly overrated. This week they played the Giants, and they beat them. What's new? They beat a bad team. Great. Congratulations. They're going to fall out of the playoff race pretty quickly, too. Jaguars are next. Had a very big bump in the road this week against the Niners, but so did the Cowboys. And I don't know. Either way, the Jaguars aren't convincing me entirely. But in terms of their outlook for this season, they are on track to easily win their division and be vying for the number 1 seed in the conference. So I'll give them that much. If Trevor Lawrence can step up his play to the play we expected, they could be very good very soon. They just got to get there. The Niners are going to fall down a bit to 6. Oh, they fell down so far. That's just because they had a 3-game skid. They recovered, so they land over the Jaguars and the Cowboys, but they're still going to fall probably to the lowest spot they have this season, if I'm not mistaken. Moving on from them, the Dolphins. A rough game against the Chiefs. Didn't look like themselves. The bye week, they're still top 5. They'll be fine. I mean, they're going to win that division probably with the Bills playing a little bit bad unless they start facing injuries. But you got to admit, the Bills also have injuries, so where's the parallel? Like, you got to give them some credit here, some credit there. Moving on from them, the Chiefs go next. Once again, they've beaten maybe one good team at this point, and it was the Dolphins. But are the Dolphins really that good? Because every time the Dolphins play a good team, they lose. So where's that parallel? So can't give the Chiefs all the credit in the world, but I'll give them more. They end up top 4. So, I mean, good enough, right? They still have to beat some good teams to really prove things, and they start next week with the Eagles. So that's good for them. Ravens go in next. They have been very good. Don't get me wrong. But they are beatable. Let's stop acting like they're not. Moving on from them, the Lions. Well, actually, before, I'm going to go ahead and put them up here. But the Ravens, just on the Ravens, a little note I want to bring up. Everybody's acting like their defense has been so pristine. Please, I'm begging you, go look at the quarterbacks they've played this season. Gardner Minshew, Josh Dobbs in Arizona, P.J. Walker, Joe Burrow on half a leg, which, not that I'm the one to stand up for that, but either way, there's a point to it, at least a little bit. They've played no one. They've literally played no one. And this week when they played Deshaun Watson, they lost. So, I don't know. Their defense is not as good as it seems. It just isn't. The Eagles and the Lions top out the list. The Eagles have just been the most put-together team this year. They've won games, good or bad. They make wins. And that's like the Steelers. Wins are the only thing that matter. It doesn't matter how pretty they are. They're wins. Yeah, the Chiefs haven't beaten anybody. The Eagles have beaten some teams. They've beaten the Cowboys. I mean, there's some statement there. They've beaten the Dolphins, but they've also struggled to beat bad teams. The Eagles have had some good wins. Lions, on the other hand, have had good wins across the board. They're up there. They've also had a loss or two that's a little a little iffy on their record, but both good teams. Either way, this is our power rankings for post-Week 10. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you would have changed on this list, where your team should be, shouldn't be, or, high or low or whatever. Also, peace.